Northwest Orient Flight is completing boarding and preparing for takeoff from Portland to Seattle. Among the passengers is a man in a dark suit, white shirt with a black tie and sunglasses, who takes a seat at the very back. Midway through the short flight, he handed a note to a flight attendant. She hesitated until he leaned in and said,
"You'd better read that."
On the note, it was written, "I have a bomb. Sit next to me." Calmly, he demanded $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. When the plane landed and his demands were met, he released the passengers and ordered the pilot to take off again with another plane, this time headed for Mexico City. Somewhere between Seattle and Reno, the man opened the rear stairway and jumped with all the cash while being escorted by 2 fighter jets. For decades, the FBI chased thousands of leads and narrowed the case to 5 key suspects, but none matched until new evidence emerged in 2022 that reveals the man's true identity.
We just solved it. Literally.
This is the 3D documentary of one of the mysterious hijackings in history of USA, Dan Cooper, the man who hijacked a plane and vanished for about 50 years. What made Dan Cooper's hijacking so legendary wasn't just the escape, it was the planning. From the moment he stepped on board on November 24th in 1971, it was clear. This wasn't a desperate man. He was someone who had thought every step through. He chose Flight 305, a short, low-risk hop between Portland and Seattle that is about 30 minutes of flight, and then he picked the Boeing 727 to fly to Mexico City, a model with a unique feature, a rear stairway that could be lowered mid-flight, something only someone familiar with aviation would know. He demanded 4 parachutes, not just 1, likely to make the FBI think he might take a hostage. That move prevented authorities from sabotaging the equipment. He also knew exactly what to ask for. $200,000 in small bills, easier to carry and harder to trace, a fuel truck on standby, cabin lights off, and the aircraft flying low and slow. Perfect for a jump. He left behind almost nothing, just a tie and cigarette butts. He even retrieved the note he had handed to the flight attendant, Florence Schaffner. He didn't just improvise, he engineered a crime the FBI would spend 50 years chasing, and it worked, because the only information FBI had was the fake name he wrote on his plane ticket, Dan Cooper. With the passengers safely released in Seattle and his demands met, Dan Cooper was almost at the end of his plan. The plane refueled and took off again just after 7:30 p.m., now carrying only Cooper and 4 crew members to Mexico City. However, his instructions were oddly specific. The aircraft was to fly under 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down, flaps set at 15 degrees, and the rear stairway unlocked. These weren't random details. That flight configuration slowed the jet down, making it ideal for a parachute jump. The crew pushed back, saying the stairway couldn't stay extended on takeoff. Cooper agreed to retract it, but made one thing clear: he would open it himself once airborne. Less than 10 minutes after departure, Cooper sent flight attendant Tina Mucklow to the cockpit and told her not to return. She obeyed, and the door locked behind her. When the plane landed in Reno nearly 2 hours later, the rear stairway was down and slightly damaged. Cooper was gone, but no one saw him jump. Not the crew, and not the escorting fighter jets. All that remained was the quiet thud of his exit and the start of one of the greatest disappearances in history. After Cooper vanished, the FBI focused on one thing they could still track: the money. Their idea was simple: make the money unusable. Cooper's $200,000 ransom was made up of 10,000 $20 bills. Each serial number had been recorded before the handoff. Lists of the serial numbers were sent to banks, casinos, and law enforcement agencies across the country. Some newspapers even published the serial numbers, offering rewards to anyone who found a match. But years passed, and not a single bill turned up. Then, nearly a decade later, in 1980, something strange happened. A boy named Brian Ingram was digging a fire pit on a beach in Washington called Tina Bar when he uncovered 3 bundles of rotting cash. The total? $5,880. And the serial numbers? A perfect match to the ransom, but the location made no sense. Tina Bar was 30 miles away from the suspected jump site and in the opposite direction of the Columbia River's flow. Even more bizarre, the rubber bands on the money were still intact. However, tests later showed that the type of rubber used would have degraded within a year if exposed to the elements. So how did the money get there and survive nearly a decade? Was it buried by Cooper, dropped accidentally, or planted for later? No one knows. But that discovery turned the case upside down and created a mystery within the mystery. For more than 50 years, the FBI investigated over 1,000 suspects, but none could be definitively tied to the hijacking. Still, a few names stood out. One was Robert Rackstraw, a Vietnam veteran, explosives expert, and ex-con with a suspicious past. He never confirmed or denied being Cooper, but he was too young and his eye color didn't match. Then there was Kenneth Christensen, a former Northwest Airlines employee and paratrooper. He matched the age and also knew the planes. He even left behind a large sum of money after his death, but his height and weight didn't fit witness descriptions. Others, like Dwayne Weber and William Smith, had intriguing ties, military records, and physical similarities, but no hard evidence. Then came a breakthrough. The black tie Cooper left behind was reanalyzed using an electron microscope. It revealed rare particles, pure titanium and cerium, found only in specific industries in the early 1970s, like aerospace manufacturing. That led investigators to believe Cooper may have worked in a high-tech or defense-related field, possibly even government-connected. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the case. But in 2022, new forensic leads emerged from private researchers, reigniting the investigation. In 2022, a retired pilot and researcher, Dan Grider, discovered something remarkable on the McCoy family property in Utah, a modified military parachute matching the exact specifications of the one used in the 1971 hijacking.
This is the rig because they know what rig he used when he jumped that night.
It was found tucked away with personal belongings of Richard Floyd McCoy Jr., a known hijacker and a former Vietnam helicopter pilot. McCoy had pulled off a near-identical hijacking just 5 months after Cooper. Same plane, same escape method, but different disguise. He was arrested, but escaped prison, and was later killed in a shootout with the FBI in 1974. For decades, no one could prove he was also Cooper. Until now. Alongside the parachute, Grider also found McCoy's logbook, documenting 39 military jumps and 8 civilian free-fall practice jumps, right before the Cooper's hijacking. Then, another jump in April of 1972, just before his second hijack with the same method. After Dan Grider's discovery, the FBI retrieved the parachute and began DNA testing, even requesting a sample from McCoy's surviving children. Though the FBI won't confirm or deny anything yet, all recovered evidence is now at Quantico, the FBI's top forensic lab. For decades, the question of who Dan Cooper was remained a mystery. But now, the name Richard McCoy might be the answer. This 3D documentary is the result of weeks of effort. So, if you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.